Hey everyone, this is Troy from Two Dudes in Sports, and today I'm going to be riding solo talking about the NHL. So I'm mainly going to be focused on the Metropolitan, since that's where the Hurricanes and most of the teams that I really care about are. But I'm just going to briefly talk about some of the other ones. The Pacific Division is basically for the Flames. They have a 4-point lead with 2 games less played than the Kings, who are second. The division, all it needs to be said, the Oilers are one of the biggest failures in hockey history. Well, it could be. They're basically the Angels of hockey. They have literally the 2 best players in Leon Draisaitl and McDavid and are barely holding on to a playoff spot. In fact, as of now, they're technically not even a playoff team, I believe. Yeah, they're not even a playoff team right now. That's how bad they've sunk. Canucks are looking pretty good. Kraken, completely terrible. The Kings, a lot better than people thought. Ducks, pretty solid. In the Central is pretty obvious. The Avalanche basically have already won the division. They have played 2 more games in the second-place Blues at 71 points, but the Avs have 87. Pretty safe to say they're winning that division. The Coyotes and Blackhawks are 2 horrible teams. The Jets have underperformed this year for the most part. The Stars have had actually a pretty good swing as of late. They're 7-2-1. The Predators are a playoff team somehow. Well, I guess it's mainly because you have UC Saros playing really well and a bunch of decent guys like Eli Tolvanen and Matt Duchene. Wild are pretty solid. Blues, they got a new Binnington, even though they have Binnington, Ville Husso, who's up there in goals against and save percentage. It's pretty solid. They also have Tarasenko, so pretty good. As for the Atlantic Division, you have the Habs, which have been really good under Martin St. Louis. I mean, they're 7-3-1 in their last 10, which no one would have ever thought. I mean, their last 10 games, they have almost half their season wins. Really solid coach. Sabres, Senators, nothing really much to say. They're both the same. They're just treading water the same way they've been the past few years, which is terrible. Red Wings, Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond both have legit cases to win the Calder this year. The team is just playing so good. The team is legit solid. It's not like a playoff team solid, but they're a solid team. Steve Yzerman is probably the best GM in hockey, so pretty good. Bruins, Maple Leafs, they've been really solid. They're 78 points, 57 games played. But they've always failed in the playoffs, and I don't think it's going to change. Tampa Bay, I still think of them as the best team in hockey until someone proves otherwise. They aren't, the number 1 seed in the league or even the division, but you've already won 2 cups. They're the favorite to win the Stanley Cup to me. Panthers, they got Huberdeau, who's like top 5 in points, solid team. Now we go to the Metropolitan. Let's start bottom up. The Flyers are a complete failure of a team. They traded for Rasmus Ristolainen. They gave up so much for him, yet he's probably going to leave this year. They gave up Shane Gostisbehere to get him, pretty much, and Gostisbehere has been a better player than Rasmus Ristolainen, which is just so sad. The Flyers, terrible franchise. Team is pretty much at 2 good years in the last 5, and aside from that, they've been terrible for the last 10. Devils, they've had a lot of injuries. Jack Hughes is still getting hurt, seems like every other week. Mackenzie Blackwood is missing time, and he's usually the guy that basically carries this team. And it's a shame, because they have talent. They have Sharon Govich and Ty Smith on the defense. Luke Hughes is going to be coming up probably next year, the year after. Mackenzie Blackwood, when healthy, is a really solid goaltender. I mean, Jack Hughes and Nico Heetcher is really good. It's just they keep getting hurt, and it's a shame. The Islanders, honestly, big L. Big failure. Big failure. They have gone from being one of the best, solid teams in the league to being just terrible. Yeah, they played 4 less games than, pretty much every team in their division. But they are literally, 12 points behind. They're 9 points behind the Blue Jackets, who are 12 points behind a playoff seed. So they're 21 points behind a playoff seed, and it's a shame. They have pretty much everyone they had last year, but they got Anders Lee back. So it's not like they should be worse, but they are. Then you have Columbus. Patrick Laine's been pretty legit good for them this year. Who would have thought that letting him be him rather than making him defensive was a good idea. They still got Zach Werenski. They're still a solid team, but it's not working out. Elvis has been really solid. I mean, they have a 28-26-3 record. It's not terrible, but it's just not good enough. The Metropolitan is stacked because the big 4, you have the Capitals at 4. The Capitals, you'd expect them to fall off a bit. They have a lot of Russian players, and there's a lot of Russian animosity going on right now. But they seem to be thriving through it. Ovechkin just tied Yager for third all-time in goals, I believe. And the team is still winning. 31-18-9 record, 71 points. They're not, as of now, it doesn't look like they're going to actually be a top 3 seed in their division. They're basically going to be the 8th or 7th seed. So they're probably going to be bounced in the first round. But it's just important to say, like, man, this team they're still going. If they had better goaltending, they'd be a bigger threat. Penguins, I mean, they're okay. I feel like for them, too, goaltending's an issue. Like, their offense, Evgeny Malkin has been spectacular since he's come back, and then Crosby's been great as usual. But I feel like when you look at that team, I just don't see them really beating some of the big boys in the league or even in their own division. They're solid, but not as good as the Rangers. The Rangers have played one less game than them and have the same amount of points. The Rangers have Igor Shesterkin, who is a Hart candidate, as well as probably the Vezina frontrunner. He's now top 5 in all 3 stats, and I believe he's top 3 in save percentage and goals against. They have the Breadman, who's having a down year, and it doesn't matter because Chris Kreider has been top 5 in goals the whole year. You still have Zibanejad, who can get you those insane games. Lafreniere is it's weird. He's not he's living up to his first overall pick potential, but he's kind of embraced the role of a depth piece really well, which a lot of people I bet wouldn't have seen coming, but he has, and he's been thriving in that role as of late. And then the 1 seed is the Hurricanes. I mean, they got the best depth in the division. Their biggest weakness is their backup goaltender, Antti Ranta, but Freddie Anderson has been great. He's top 5 in all 3 goalie stats as well, and he's pretty much the only other candidate for the Vezina. And then you look at essentially how the team. Whenever Svetch is hot, the team is insane. When he's not hot, they just rely on their main star, Sebastian Aho. The team still has a lot of good depth everywhere. The team still has a solid captain in Jordan Staal. I mean, the team it's really good. For a team that doesn't have a single player that is probably top 10 in the league, they are a lot better than you'd expect. For how great Aho is, I wouldn't say he's top 10 necessarily, but it's not like they need a top 10 star. They win in the fact that they have depth, and they're able to keep on pushing out more and more players that can always perform highly. That's essentially how the Hurricanes are, and that's basically NHL at this point. Now, I've already given my predictions for how the division is going to end out because the trade deadline hasn't happened yet, and wherever Claude Giroux goes, that team's going to have a better chance. As of now, I say the winners of the divisions are pretty much the guys who are on top. I think it's going to be the Canes, Panthers, Avs, and Flames, with the Flames and Avalanche being the 2 most slam dunk picks you could literally pick, and the Hurricanes being the next thing to it. I think that the Blues make the playoffs. I think that the Kings make the playoffs. I think Vegas makes the playoffs. I think the Wild make the playoffs. And then as the 2 wild cards from the West, I'm going to go with, honestly, it's a tough call, but I'm going to honestly go with the Canucks and the Stars. Here's why. The Canucks have been on a roll since Boudreau's become their head coach. They've been a much more solid team. And in terms of talent, they have talent. You have Elias Pettersson and you have Quinn Hughes. You can be legit. That's not even counting guys like Brock Besser and Höglander. And then the Stars, they've been to a cup final literally 2 years ago. Everyone seems to forget that. And they have Jason Robertson, who is legit probably top 5 under 23 player in the league. And then you still have Joe Pavelski. I think the Preds are going to fall off a bit at some point. I don't see their sustained greatness. The Ducks, I mean, they could, but I don't know. The Oilers are a tale of why depth matters and why you can't just rely on 2 guys plus now 3 since they got Evander Kane, who's actually playing well for them. Yeah. As for the East, the Lightning and Maple Leafs are a 2nd and 3rd team in the Atlantic. The Metropolitans, Penguins, and Rangers. And then the 2 wild cards are the Bruins and Caps. It's not like that really is arguable. Basically, those 8 teams are just far and away above everybody. The Blue Jackets, if you were to say a week ago, they would have a shot to be in the division, but a 3-game winning streak from the Caps and a 3-game losing streak from the Blue Jackets have basically shut that door. So, yeah. This has been Troy from 2 Dudes in Sports. talking about hockey. See you in the next one.